The future of learning. And we are very happy to have an excellent panel gathered with, I think, one person online. And I will hand over now to our moderator. She's actually a specialist on IT. You can see actually on the screen, she's a Director General for Information Technology here at the Asian Development Bank. So ladies and gentlemen, give a big warm welcome to Stephanie Hung. The floor is yours, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our plenary session. And the title of this session is Unlocking the Future of Learning, Leveraging Big Data and Generative AI for Education Excellence. So today, this session, we will talk about big data, artificial intelligence, and educations. The widespread usage of big data analytics and AI is actually changing the world around us. Education is no exception. AI has the potential to enhance and transform lead teaching and learning practices and accelerate progress towards the global goal of quality educations for all. However, AI also brings multiple risks and challenges that need to be addressed by educator, policymaker, and our society. So today, we actually have objectives for this plenary session that we want to discuss. One is really about share big data on market and sector intelligence, especially on EdTech and AI for education market. Embrace AI potential to transform teaching and learning's method for more impactful education. Third, identify challenges and risks associated with AI adoptions and develop strategies to address them. Fourth, encouraging conversations on ensuring AI is inclusive and equitable for all and development, human and social development. And last is the policy framework and recommendation for policymaker for the proper usage of AI in education and research. So today, it is really a privilege that we have a distinguished panel speaker that is with you. So let me just quickly introduce, the panel speaker. So we have Dr. Patrick Brothers, who is actually the co-CEO at Holo IQ, the global market intelligence platform working with government, institutions, firms, and investors across the world on cutting-edge research and data analytics to power decisions that matter. Then online, we actually have Dr. Anand Agawa, who is the founder and CEO of EdTech. And Dr. Anand is the Chief Open Education Officer of 2U EdTech. He was a founder and a CEO in online learning, EdTech, founded by Harvard and MIT. Dr. Anand also taught the first EdTech courses on circuit and electronics from MIT, which is drew about 150,000 students from 162 countries. He has served as a director for CSAIL, MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. And he is also a professor of electrical engineering and computer science at MIT. He is a social entrepreneur and also won many prizes for teaching. And he even holds a Guinness World Record for the largest microphone array and is the author of the textbook Foundation of Analog and Digital Electronic Circuit. So we have Dr. Anand with us. We also have Ms. Mafalita Aldaba, the Undersecretary, Department of Trade and Industry, Philippines. She served as the department in MDTI Undersecretary since 2019. And Rafaelita actually led the science, technology, innovations-based industry strategy for DTI. She also initiated the DTI Innovation and Industry 4.0 activities, such as Artificial Intelligence Roadmap, Startup Development Roadmap, and Creative Industries Development Program. And last but not the least, which is Professor Yaqub Ibrahim, which is actually the professor in practice at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. Professor Ibrahim was a minister in Singapore government from 2002 till 2018. As a minister, he contributed to the government's effort to digitalize the economy, society, and oversaw the nation's cybersecurity strategy. Currently, he actively participates in discussion in academia and with tech companies on digital transformation and cybersecurity. And Professor Ibrahim inspired me a lot on the AI because he's the pioneer in establishing the AI ethics and governance in Singapore. So today, these are the full panel that we have. So let me just quickly start the round of discussions. First, maybe I have it for Dr. Patrick Brothers. What are the emerging trends and data insight in the EdTech arena for big data and AI empowered platforms?
Wonderful, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with you all, and I thought I'd start by sharing some data, just to put everything into perspective about how high the stakes are as we think about the future of education. We spend around $7 trillion every year on education. There's about 1.5 billion of us in formal education, perhaps 3 to 4 billion if we start talking language learning and upskilling. Around $400 billion is spent every year on education technology. So for every $1 we spend on education, we spend 5 cents on technology as part of that. It's not clear whether that's too much or not enough yet. That's a whole other conversation as well. There's around 100 million teachers around the world. We heard in our last session that conversation is evolving to guide on the side or mentor, but that sounds a lot like Copilot or AI tutor as well as we think about artificial intelligence. We heard from Fatima as well in her opening remarks as well. Asia is responsible for 70% of the world's GDP growth this year. If you didn't think it was the Asian century, well, that's just another data point to remind us how important this room is with respect to the global economy as well. We just completed our 5th annual AI in Education survey with schools and universities, technologists all around the world. Very, very interesting insights. This was the first year that we saw piloting artificial intelligence go from 1 in 10 to 4 in 10 schools and universities who would consider themselves piloting artificial intelligence. The 2 top reasons for adopting AI, the top reason was to improve learner outcomes. The second reason was to reduce the cost of education, or to do more with what little dollars everybody had as part of the system. Of the 4 types of AI that we think about, vision-based AI, voice-based AI, language-based AI, and machine learning or quantitative forms, I don't have to guess or take a poll, language learning or language-based AI was by far the most popular this year, and that's been growing every single year. Very interesting, machine learning went down, and my colleagues in advanced technology tell me that's because as soon as it's no longer magic, it's not AI. It's just boring machine learning or technology. I want to really quickly finish off by, I'm sure all of you have been reflecting on how AI is impacting us in education. Very quickly, I want to throw some thoughts before my colleagues take us from the clouds back down into the practical realms of what we're doing. In content, of course, generative AI is having a massive impact. But we think about copyright, we think about genuineness, and it's not just our students that are using it, it's our teachers too. They deserve those superpowers as well. Learner support, teacher support, we're hearing about co-pilots, we talked about teacher as mentor in management. We heard our colleagues on the previous panel, we heard about P&G thinking about paperless education, introducing big data and new forms of technology to make it more efficient and more environmentally friendly. One of my favorites, immersive forms of education, simulation, augmented reality and virtual reality. Sounds far-fetched for some developing markets, but very interesting for giving some of our top students access to resources that could be a nuclear particle accelerator or a surgical room, somewhere that they might not have the resources to access. Personalization, of course, we all dream of the one-to-one tutor who teaches us everything all the time very well. Assessment, we've talked a lot about detecting cheating. We haven't talked a lot about reimagining assessment, reimagining evaluation, what it is, how do we verify these skills and shift our thinking from detecting cheating to just rethinking evaluation. And finally, my final thought, of course, perhaps the biggest impact on education is how AI will affect the jobs for whom it is our role to prepare children and young adults for those jobs for the future. And it's really not clear at this stage what that looks like as well. I might just finish by saying any conversation on artificial intelligence is peppered with the thought of, will it disrupt us rapidly and very soon? Or will this be something that we've worried a lot about and seen a lot of hype about, and it will go away? And of course, the thoughts we hear from school principals, from provosts, from presidents, from ministers around the world is they want to do both. They want to move on today with the practical things that need to be done to get our kids into school and upskilling them, thinking about the environment, but they need to be thoughtful about this new powerful technology and what it means for jobs of the future and how we deliver education as well.
Thank you, Patrick. So next question I have is with Dr. Anand. How can AI support personalized, adaptive, and collaborative learning for diverse learners, and how AI augment teachers' capabilities and foster holistic development of learners? Dr. Anand?
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, it's a real pleasure for me to join you all virtually. I'm sorry I could not be there in person, but I'm just so delighted to join you all virtually. I'm here in Boston, and it's almost midnight. And so some of the things I'm about to say will sound like a dream. Will sound completely unreal, but we have seen some incredible progress in AI, particularly in language-based models and generative AI. Although AI has been around in various forms since the 60s as we know it. I'm the director of the computer science, or I was the director of the computer science and AI lab at MIT, which was formed of the AI lab. And the AI lab at MIT was founded in 1960. And so developments in AI and machine learning have been happening, but the whole world suddenly began to focus on it middle to late last year as OpenAI came out with ChatGPT that made it very, very easy to use AI, where AI's responses were so human-like. In fact, better than human in many, if you want to put it that way, that completely transformed what we thought AI could do for us. To your question, in terms of how AI might be able to help us with education, we can look at two ways. There are two ways to think about it. One is, how will AI help learners? And how will AI help teachers? In terms of AI helping learners, our previous panelists talked about various examples in which AI could create everything from a co-pilot to a personal tutor to helping create new forms of assessment and so on. But I will give you some concrete examples just to ground everything in reality and share some examples of what we built already in edX. So edX is an online learning platform. You can go to it by typing in edx.org, and you can learn for free. We have over 4,000 courses, all the way from individual courses to complete degrees from top university. And a large number of the courses are free. So you can go in, and as you're taking these courses, you will start interacting with our AI brand. It's called Expert, X with a big capital X. One of our tenets of using AI is that whenever we use AI, we want to be transparent to the teacher and to the student. And so all of our AI usages are branded Expert. So when a learner sees Expert, they know that they're interacting with AI. The ways AI can help learners are myriad. The simplest example is an AI tutor. We've launched AI tutors in our courses, in our boot camps, and we're now getting results. So what is a tutor? While you are learning as a student, just imagine, wouldn't it be amazing, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what language you speak, no matter how much money you have, imagine as you're learning a course, and if you have a question or a doubt, you can turn to a tutor and ask a question. The tutor is available 7/24 at all times, understands all languages, and can explain things to you in a way that can really help you understand the material. So we launched Expert Tutor in our courses. And what the tutor will do is you can ask any question, and the tutor will start answering questions. Now, as a teacher myself, we were initially worried that says, wait a second, do we really want AI to answer questions as soon as they're asked? And then we said, let's look at what a great teacher would do. So when a great teacher is asked a question, the great teacher will rarely answer the question. I know as a student, you're often frustrated when the teacher asks, if you ask a question, the teacher responds with another question. So for example, if you ask the teacher, what is 500 plus 500? The teacher might respond, oh, do you know addition? Can you add 2 plus 2? And so the teacher will help you arrive at the answer by asking you questions. That's what great teachers do. Great teachers will rarely give you an answer. So we've trained our AI models to behave like a great teacher, where our tutors don't give out answers right away, but they behave like a teacher and ask the learner questions. And so all of this stuff can be programmed using a new technology, an amazing new emerging field called prompt engineering. With prompt engineering, it teaches you how you can train AI. And all of this stuff is fairly easy to do. And prompt engineering can help you train AI to do these sorts of things. So the tutor is just one example. And some of the data we're getting is pretty incredible. In our boot camps, for example, we found that the number of questions that students are asking when we introduced an AI tutor, in addition to human tutors, went up by a factor of 6. So in the boot camps, we had live human tutors, and students could ask questions of live human beings. But when we introduced an AI tutor, we had an increase in the number of questions asked by a factor of 6. And then we asked the students, why are they asking so many more questions with AI? They're responding with things like, a lot of our questions are silly questions, and we are shy to ask those questions of a human being. But with AI, it's just a computer, it's a machine. So we can keep asking all of these silly questions and ask the same question again and again. Another reason was that very often you have to schedule an appointment with a human being to ask a question. But then if a question is at 2 a.m. in the night and you want the question answered right then, the human person may not be available. But AI is available all the time. And so this whole tutoring concept will be amazing. And it is my dream that we can extend this tutor concept to a place where in the not too distant future, every child growing up in the world, no matter where they are, what language they speak, no matter how educated their parents are or not, they will have a tutor that will work with them and be beside them throughout their lives. Today, only the students who have educated parents who are able to coach and teach their children from day one are able to inculcate these kind of learnings in the student, but AI will be able to help us. So this is just one example of how AI can help learners. Very quickly, let me switch gears and talk about how AI can help teachers. AI can help teachers in many, many ways. And the simplest example, as mentioned earlier, is as a co-pilot. Today, when you go to programming sites like GitHub and so on, you have a co-pilot. If you are writing some code, a co-pilot will help you write the program. We're getting to a point where very few people write programs from scratch. They will use a co-pilot to start the programming process, and the users will check it and complete it and test it. Similarly, with teaching, we're getting to a point where teachers will have a co-pilot. And there are many ways in which teachers can use a co-pilot. On our platform, we have translations of video transcripts in multiple languages. The teacher doesn't have to create the translations. AI does it. That's just one example where a teacher can create a video and say, give me a translation in all these languages. Boom, AI produces the translations. Teachers ask AI on our platform to create summaries of courses and lessons. So let's say I have a lesson, and I can create a summary to give the student with just one click and saying, hey, a ChatGPT, give me a summary of this, and a learner can get a summary. And then we can also have, the teachers can use the co-pilot to create new problems. Given a lesson, I can ask AI to create newer and newer problems. Now, people worry that AI will increase cheating in the world, but we can use the same AI to help with cheating. So one example is the teacher can say, give me 50 different variations of the problem and give every student a slightly different problem. If I'm a teacher, that is impossible to create. But with AI, every student can get a slightly different problem, and then AI can also grade the problems. So these are just some examples in which, as we think very creatively of AI, we can see how it can help students and teachers in a big way. Now, in case you're wondering, I'm always asked this question, okay, how do I go, and if I'm a teacher, or if I want to do prompt engineering, how do I go and do it? It's very easy to find courses on this. If you go to edX.org, for example, and just type in prompt engineering, or introduction to AI, or introduction to ChatGPT, you will find very, very short 1, 2, 3 hour courses. And many of these things are very simple, and these are available for free. And you can very, very quickly upskill and reskill in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adnan. So next question is Ms. Revolita. What are the digital divide, ethical issues, new skills, and new policy that AI in education entails?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, and I think it's good afternoon, everyone. Of course, we know that AI, generative AI in particular, brings a lot of opportunities, but there are also challenges. Opportunities, I'd like to highlight that based on the calculations of EDBI and Kearney, for the Philippines, if successfully implemented, AI could lead to a $92 billion contribution to the economy, and that's around 12% of our GDP, really a huge value. And for ASEAN countries, the figure is around $1 trillion by 2030. And recent figures actually coming from Microsoft indicated that generative AI could lead to $79.3 billion contribution to the economy by 2028. That's for the Philippines. But we all know that in order for us to really be able to take full advantage of these opportunities, it is important to equip our workforce. We need to have future-ready skills in an AI-powered future. And apart from vital elements such as information, communication, and education, and achieving a critical mass of AI stakeholders in all sectors of society would be important, along, of course, with building the digital infrastructure, both soft and hard infrastructure. So together with other government agencies, we need to ensure that the quality of connectivity required by these technologies will be there. And another important element would, of course, be skills development, the need for us to reskill and upskill the workforce. But turning now to the challenges, of course, that would include digital divides, as you mentioned, ethical issues, and the need for new policies. So just to give a brief overview on these challenges, number one, on digital divides, of course, there's access divide. Not all students have equal access to technology and the internet. Some lack the necessary devices or internet connectivity, creating disparities in their ability to benefit from AI-powered educational resources. And this just reminds me of what happened to us during the pandemic. As you know, the Philippines is a country with over 7,000 islands. And for children to be able to go online, classes were held online, by the way. You could see them climbing up trees just so they'll be able to get signal from their phones and download the materials that they need. So really, like what I've said, we have to, I mentioned those critical elements in the beginning because to address the issues, we really need a comprehensive plan and a lot of collaboration between and among government, academic industry, and other stakeholders. But the other divide is skills divide. Even when access is available, of course, students and educators may have varying levels of digital literacy and proficiency, which would affect their ability to effectively use AI tools. Now, going to a discussion about the ethical issues, there's bias and fairness. Of course, AI algorithms can inherit biases from the training data and potentially disadvantaging certain student groups. And ensuring fairness and mitigating bias in AI systems is a critical ethical concern. Second is privacy. Collecting and analyzing student data for personalized learning can raise privacy concerns. Protecting students' personal information is paramount. The third is transparency. The lack of transparency in AI decision-making can lead to mistrust. And for us to be able to build this AI ecosystem, trust is a fundamental element. And ethical AI in education should provide clear explanations of how decisions are being made. And then the third is data security. So safeguarding student data from breaches and unauthorized access is essential to maintain trust in AI-driven educational systems. The fourth is equity. AI should be used to bridge educational disparities, not exacerbate them. Ensuring that AI tools are accessible and beneficial to all students, including those with disabilities, is going to be crucial, including for the out-of-school youth. And then in terms of the new policies, I'd like to mention data privacy regulation. So policies should be in place to protect student data privacy with clear guidelines for how data is collected, stored, and used in AI-powered education. Next is ethical guidelines. We need to develop and enforce ethical guidelines for AI usage in education, emphasizing fairness, transparency, accountability, and responsible data handling. In terms of the equity policies, policies should address the digital divide, ensuring equitable access to technology and digital learning resources for all students. Teacher training, again, this is also crucial, especially for a developing country like the Philippines. We are actually struggling as well in terms of providing teacher training so as to equip them with all the AI needs that are necessary in order for them to be able to mentor their students. So we need to establish policies that require and support teacher training in AI literacy and responsible AI integration into the curriculum. Accountability frameworks, we need to implement accountability frameworks that hold educational institutions and AI providers responsible for the ethical and effective use of AI in education. We also need to create mechanisms for regular oversight and auditing of AI systems in education to identify and rectify the ethical issues and biases. Informed consent, so where appropriate, policies should also require informed consent from students and their parents or guardians regarding the use of AI in their education. Research ethics, we need to address considerations in educational research involving AI and ensuring that participants' rights and well-being are protected. And lastly is global collaboration. We need to encourage international collaboration and standards to ensure consistency and ethical best practices in AI-powered education. So AI in education holds the promise of personalized learning and improved outcomes, but it must be implemented responsibly with careful consideration of the digital divides, ethical issues, and appropriate policies that would safeguard our students and educators.
Thank you. It is a very comprehensive, thoughtful approach. And one of the excitement really about AI from Dr. Anand in terms of how we can actually using AI to help students to learn better and help the teacher to actually be able to augment them to actually serve the students better. One of the things that we always concern is that the digital divide and also now the skill divide. So the next question is to Professor Yaacob Ibrahim. He was the former Minister of Communication and Informations in Singapore, and actually he pioneered the AI ethics and governance and pioneered cybersecurity within Singapore, which is amazingly, I think recently, Singapore's AI verified standard is actually mapping out with international standards like NIST in terms of AI risk management framework. So Professor, I think what I would like to ask is that how can we ensure that AI in education is human-centered, inclusive, and equitable?
Thank you, Stephanie. Good afternoon to all of you. Being the last speaker, I can say I agree with all the first four speakers. But because I prepared my answers, you better listen to me, okay? But seriously, I think there are a couple of points I just want to add to the conversation. The most important thing is AI literacy. That is what has been discussed, right? Students need to know how to use it. Teachers need to know how to use it, basically. So literacy is very important. Training. We talk about prompts so that they can benefit a lot from using ChatGPT or Gen AI in their study. Second point, of course, is about AI ethics. Like all tools, it is designed on data which is not perfect. And so you do have the problem of discrimination and bias and so on and so forth. So most legislations have guidelines in place to make sure that your data is clean, the fidelity is good, integrity is good, and that I think is very important for us to talk about in terms of how AI can be used in an ethical manner. The third point I want to make is that at the end of the day, it is merely a tool, right? It is a tool and it is not an end itself. It is supposed to be supplementing the education and not replacing it. And I think we must not forget that the most important thing about education, thank you, is really about the interaction between the teacher and the student. That is a human enterprise. You can never replace that. Do you really want to replace your mother with a bot? Never, right? So you want some human interaction. But you use AI in such a way that the human interaction is heightened, right? It brings about greater learning, basically. I think that's the most important for us to think about. At the end of the day, it's about the learner, right? The learner is very important. He or she will have to go out in this world, which is very complex and a lot of ambiguity. What are the necessary skill sets that you need to impart to him or her so that they can navigate this world, basically, right? So to me, it's a tool. It's just to supplement. It's not to replace. Finally, the issue of security, I think I have to say that because it's very important. We're all excited with ChatGPT and all the Gen AI, but we forget we open ourselves to attacks. We become more vulnerable. So don't forget there is a dark side to technology. We always talk about the good side and everything that's important, but we must bear in mind the dark side of technology and how we prepare for that. Not because I was a minister for cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is such an important point that there is now a convergence between AI and cybersecurity. You know, you can get ChatGPT to write a malicious code that you can send to your neighbor's computer, right? Would you want to do that or not, right? So we have to think about it. Finally, I think, why do we use technology? For us in Singapore, it's not an end to itself, but it's a means to a better quality of life. As mentioned in the earlier presentation, if I can make life for my teachers better, right? For example, removing marking of papers, which is laborious, so that then he or she has more time to concentrate on the teaching of the student. So I think the quality of life is a very important parameter for me personally in Singapore. Being a small island nation, very compact, how do we ensure that the human interaction is not lost? If anything, it should heighten the human interaction so that there is a lot more value in for us coming together as Singaporeans to work together and to build that small nation called Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a list of live and Q&A, so I will jump straight to the live Q&A. There are a few interesting questions here, is that I think we do talk about this is a tools, and how do we ensure that learner do not become over-reliant on generative AI? So any one of you want to take a step?
I mean, I think for me, this is learners will respond to the way we assess them and the way that we approach education. So if we tell everyone learning is about assessment and passing a test to get to the next step, they'll take the shortcuts. They're humans. But if learning is something that's more enjoyable, I love the remark about your mother, replacing your mother with a bot. Like that's such a great reflection of the humanity and the social structure of learning. Like my mum taught me half of everything I know, that's for sure. But so she's a teacher. And so I think that concept of, should we be worried? And we have to somehow move through that and think about AI as a superpower for all of us and for our teachers, not as a substitute.
Yeah, thank you. And with the advent of AI, so what is the place of critical thinking on the part of both the learner as well as the teacher?
More important than ever. You need to be able to assess the output from Gen AI. Does it make sense or not? That requires critical thinking. Teachers need to be very critical in terms of the kinds of questions or assessment that they develop using ChatGPT, right? So I think it's very important for us to re-emphasize that point. As mentioned by Robert, it is not a shortcut to get your A's, but it's a learning path for you to get better understanding of the material. So I think, as I said, I keep repeating myself, it's a tool, and I think we cannot, in one way or the other, replace the teacher entirely. I just want to add one more point that was mentioned by Robert in the earlier point. How do you prevent it from being addictive, where people use it as a tool to just get by? Someone made a very important remark. We lost that opportunity when social media was born. Today, all of us are addicted. While we are talking, some of you are checking your phone, your WhatsApp messages and all that stuff, right? So better confess. And I think we have now an opportunity to think about how we make sure that Gen AI or generative AI in general do not become too addictive, right? So you need guidelines, you need rules, you need some form of regulation. I don't like to use that word, so that in a way you can draw a boundary. So in Singapore, for example, the Ministry of Education allow all the 6 universities, including my university, to use Gen AI. But it is left entirely to the university to decide how to do it. My own university, we're just looking at assessment. Take one step at a time. How do we use that tool to devise better assessment so that then the students understand where they're learning, what is it that is they're not learning very well, and how we can help them, basically, right? So I think this is a very important moment in human history for us to make sure that we can rein in Gen AI in such a way that it becomes a tool which is for us, not we become a slave to the tool, right? So currently, as you know, the United Nations is putting together an expert panel to talk about a global treaty on AI. And the UN SecGen is aiming for next year, October, to release that treaty, right? So it's an interesting idea, just like we have a global treaty on climate change, they say there should be a global treaty on AI. I'm not against it. I think it's something worthwhile thinking. To have an omnibus rule would be very difficult, but something that can really guide humanity. My final point is, you know, human cloning is possible, but we have decided as a human race to not allow it, except for that one Chinese doctor who tried it, right? So I think AI will have to go along the same way. We know what are the potential, but we have to draw a line in the sand somewhere to say we'll never cross that line. What is that line is for all of us to determine. Thank you.
If I might add,
Yes, hi. Dr. Anand?
Yeah, just to add very quickly, in terms of the policies on digital transformation in the Philippines, our focus really is on our people. Technology is only 10%, 90% really should be focusing human-centered digital transformation. That's the direction of our policies. We have a roadmap, an AI, an artificial intelligence roadmap, of course, the focus of which is to uplift the lives of our people, as well as to ensure that our industries are innovative and competitive. And to do that, we focus a lot in terms of skills development, ensuring that as we promote this, as we promote AI and digital transformation, no one is going to be left behind. And we also believe that in terms of the curricular changes that are needed, we should start from the primary, from basic, and instilling creative, not just the use of AI or programming, but combining it with critical thinking and creativity, because through the use of these new technologies like AI, we are not only focusing in terms of the improvements in productivity, but as well as utilizing it as a tool in order for us to be able to create new products, new processes, so pursue more innovation.
Thank you. I hear that Dr. Anand, you also want to say something?
Yeah, I had a quick point on critical thinking, and it's very, very important for the Southeast Asia region. I grew up in India and did my education in India, and a lot of the education was very rote regurgitation and memorization. When history was taught, we memorized dates and we regurgitated what was in the textbook. And as a professor at MIT, I've seen many students come here from all over the world, including the, whether it's Singapore or Malaysia or Philippines, Indonesia, and the Far East. And in many places and in many schools, the system is not unlike that of India. The focus is very much on repetition and regurgitation. I think this is where AI will simply eat our students' lunch if that's all we teach our students, because AI can do this much, much, much better. So instead, we need to focus a lot more on critical thinking, and we have to train our teachers in how do we ask the questions of our students that make them think critically. Rather than asking, when was the first war of independence in India fought? Maybe we ask questions like, what caused them to fight this war? What would have happened if so-and-so did something else? Those are the kind of critical thinking questions that are never asked in school. And I think we have to train our teachers to focus much more on developing critical thinking in their students. And so this might be a fantastic chance for all of us to move our education systems in the direction of critical thinking.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think now we all have to learn the art of asking questions and prompt engineering, right? Now knowledge is easier to find and search, but now the art of asking prompt engineering is going forward to be the skill set. The other one I think I like is daydreaming. I like abstract thinking because I don't think generative AI can do the abstract thinking. I like to daydreaming, So if your kids are daydreaming, I think they should encourage them because I think that is the most powerful things. Especially for a human, we actually have this capability to connect the dots that is not seemingly statistically can be proven, but the abstract thinking does help us, moving forward. So with the closing, we have about 5 minutes. I think Ms. Mafelita actually mentioned about the digital divide. So we as an educator have been always, have the challenge is that how do we actually ensure that the students have the accessibility, first and foremost, have the accessibility to the internet, to the technologies. Then the next thing is that how do we equip them to actually learn, and also the teacher would know how to use the technology to teach them, right? One of the things is the biggest challenge going forward is that the developed country or the so-called the rich nation, they will be able to actually pump a lot of resources to develop AI. And in fact, I think the risk of having AI have a adverse effect on widening the digital divide. So from that perspective, I would like to ask the panel is that what do you think that we can potentially using AI to actually narrow the gap rather than broadening the gap?
Just really quickly, we were having some short remarks before, and Asia has shown the world, adopting mobile technology was a real leapfrog move. Payment, when I go to the US and get a check from one of our customers, it drives me crazy. I think I'm in one of the most world's advanced nations and we're still a third world payment system. And I think about artificial intelligence in Asia in the same respect as how do we help our governments make really smart infrastructure and enabling decisions such that we'll always need to worry about the digital divide. There will always be poor and vulnerable people, but we can close that gap fast with very, very smart decisions like Asia's adoption of mobile, whatever that is for AI and education. That's my thoughts.
I totally agree with Robert. It is the role of government, right? There's no 2 seconds about it. You have to invest, you have to train, you have to provide facilities, because if you leave it to market forces, the divide will just grow up. And so our experience in Singapore during the pandemic showed that there were gaps, right, in our society, and now we're trying to close that as quickly as possible. We're a small country. I don't pretend all of you can follow what we've done in Singapore, but the government decided that now children at the age of 11 will get a free iPad for life, basically, right? Free iPad so that they can use for home-based learning and so on and so forth. And we work with the internet service providers to give them cheap internet access for 2 years. So we reach out to low-income families, we reach out to communities that need help, and we work together with the market players to make sure that we can close the gap as much as possible. I think there's no other solution. We have to do that. My final point I just want to make is that, as mentioned by Robert, I think we need to use AI in a smarter way. And I think we need to use AI in that context also, how to bring about that change in vulnerable communities. During the pandemic, we realized that our housing flats were not designed for home-based learning. It was meant for you to go back, sleep, eat your dinner, and go out and work, right? It is not designed for that. So we have to rethink our public housing program, but more importantly, beyond the housing is into the community. How we tap the community resources to turn that into learning spaces so that students can go down in the void decks of our HDB flat, bring the iPad, and continue with home-based learning. I think that rethinking can be helped by AI because then they can give us options in terms of the kind of solutions that we need to do. Thank you.
This is actually very easy. Sorry, go ahead.
Shall I? Okay. Very quickly. Well, of course, we can make use of AI in addressing our socioeconomic, health, environment, education problems. But we need to ensure that the proper environment that would allow it to thrive, that would ensure that all those challenges and issues mentioned earlier would be addressed is really crucial in order for us to successfully uplift our people and ensure that we're able to address poverty. And we're thinking as well of more specific suggestions like subsidizing more online courses, for instance, given the poor internet in our country, the high costs are really our major barriers to online learning, and then also providing skills-based tax incentives for employers. That way, it would be easier for us to be able to target a lot of our workers and be able to benefit from this new technology that would it's not going to replace us, but it's really to augment our productivity.
Yes, thank you. And Dr. Anand?
All great technologies have democratized, have increased access, and frankly, have reduced the digital divide. You take as an example, the internet. Before the internet, access to knowledge and information was only available to the rich. If you could buy in India, I remember my parents bought me an encyclopedia set that cost 1,000 rupees, 50 years ago. So if you had some money, you could get a big encyclopedia set and get some access to information. But today, the internet has democratized access and everybody has access to the internet. In the same way, I believe that AI is democratizing literacy, particularly writing literacy. And it will completely democratize how people write, how people use knowledge, how people use AI in their work and so on. It'll completely democratize and create a much more productive society. So what governments can do is, I don't think they should be focusing on AI and creating more regulation. I think that is completely the wrong move. What government should do is provide the basic highways and the airports. What are the equivalents of highways and airports in the digital world? Like Singapore did, provide people with an iPad and give them access to the internet and then stay out of the way. In Andhra Pradesh and India, for example, the chief minister provided an iPad to all the kids in 9th grade. And so, this is not very hard to do. It's very inexpensive. And once you do that, all of these technologies being available through the internet will help democratize.
Thank you. So with the will and determination and collectively, we could do better. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you all agree this was an excellent session, a lot of food for thought. Please give a hand also to our moderator, Stephanie Hung. So we're going to show you and hope, I think it will be not the final draft, but our graphic recording expert trying to capture some key messages. I think there were a lot of messages we can take home or for our lunch. I'm still struggling with the question about AI and my mother. So I'm sure some join me in there. It's an interesting conversation. She's not watching, that's why I can say that. And we are going very soon for lunch, but you see now, and I'm going out of the way, it's real-time recording. It's one of the very difficult skills in facilitation to capture actually in real time. Yeah, so that's a nice way of capturing also our learnings. And we're gonna break now for 1 hour lunch. The executive dining room, there are a lot of people around who will guide you the way. Executive dining room, we're gonna continue our conversation for 1 hour. We apologize to our online participants, you have to cook yourself. And we meet in 1 hour back here on time. I think that's 1:30, right? 1:30. 1:30 on time. Please leave a little bit earlier so we can start on time because our online participants are waiting for you. Okay? Enjoy. See you in 1 hour. Thank you so much.